So, in the spirit of reflecting on what works and what year we've had this year, it's been kind of a really fun year, actually. Tons of travel to really cool places as well. We went to Hawaii for the first time, which was really fun. But I've been thinking this is now year number 5 of our independent consulting business. And it hasn't gone quite the way I thought it would. When we started, I was coming out from a background of having had big corporate experience. I worked for Bank of America, which is significantly one of the biggest banks in the country. And then I also had a long career with both Deloitte Consulting and then a boutique consulting firm. And I thought going into boutique consulting or independent consulting would be easy, but it really wasn't. I knew a couple of things, right? I knew that I absolutely did not want to do what I had previously been doing. I didn't just want to retread and sort of trade the brand of who I was working for, but do the same thing, because then I might as well have just stayed where I was. So I needed to kind of identify what it was that really frustrated me about where I had been. I guess intuitively, I feel quite creative and I wanted to explore and experiment and do things a little bit differently, and I couldn't do that. And so identifying that meant that obviously I wanted to try and figure out how I could do the work that I was known for and that I wanted to keep doing my own way. And that was the first little clue that I probably didn't listen to enough. I immediately started with a new company name, and I didn't name it myself. I called it the Ambition Company because it was core to my thesis, which was that companies that start with strategy are less likely to be as successful as those who start with ambition and wanting to achieve something big. That just is a core fundamental tenet of everything that I believe in and is anchored how I think about all the work that I do. And so I started with the Ambition Company. That was the name of the business. And immediately set about figuring out how do I do this with clients. Now, it would have been really easy for me to lift and shift the content that I'd either been doing with Cotta or that I'd been doing at Deloitte or the things that I'd been doing with Bank of America, all of which had significant transformation themes, and a golden thread through all of that was this idea of sort of large change and transformation, transformative shifts from one state to another and an outcome that was bigger or different. So that would have been really easy, but I knew that that would actually sort of be cheating a little bit. What I needed to do is identify what it was that I was going to do and the way that I was going to do it. And so over the past couple of years, a few things happened. My business started off strong, and then I started to question myself and started to doubt, is this the way I want to be working? I'd spent 30 years working with teams, and now it's just me on my own. Now I have a great team that handles my accounts and legal matters, and my accountant, CPA, and lawyers are great, right? So that's fantastic. But I didn't have creative thought partners. I didn't have somebody who I could bounce ideas off. I didn't have somebody who I could necessarily develop a methodology with. It was all on me, and I'm typically okay with that, but all of a sudden it started to feel a bit lonely. So it created a little bit of I started paying attention to what these signals were telling me, and I came very close. In fact, I did go back to a consulting role for all of a couple of months before realizing that that just wasn't going to work. I came very close to sort of abandoning my idea of an independent consulting business or an independent advisor business because I wasn't sure that I would be able to sustain it until I hit on one thing. And the thing that I hit on was I needed to have a signature engagement. I want to think how far into this journey. It probably was probably about 2.5 years into the journey where I started having some sleepless nights about revenue. I wondered what would the next deal look like? Where would it come from? I perhaps wrongly was hoping that clients would want me for a second phase of the work. And I say wrongly because I don't want to create a dependence. I want my clients to do the work and then be set up to do what they want to do. So for me, wanting them to want more of me to keep doing some of that same work just felt like I hadn't achieved what I really set out to achieve the first time, which was to make them independent of me. So it's kind of this situation that I found myself in where I was looking and I was pretty responsive to more or less any proposal that came my way. And I did 2 pieces of work that I had no business doing. They were successful, but I felt entirely inadequate in delivering that work. It was not my sweet spot. It was not something that I had skill in. And I know that there are any number of people who would have been way more successful and probably better for the client at that work than I would have been. But I took the work because of revenue and because of relationship. And it actually was a short and a narrow-sighted view on the relationship, because what I really ought to have done is said, I'm not the right person. Here's somebody who can work for you. But instead, I took the work. And I started to realize, gosh, I can't be building a business where I'm hoping that something comes in that I will figure out. As a team of one, there's only so much you can figure out. There's only so far that you can stretch yourself and so much that you can dive into. And so I realized this idea of a signature engagement, the thing that I found myself doing again and again that clients would call me back for year after year or even quarter after quarter with different parts of their business, that was where the insight came to me, that if I could create this signature engagement, this repeatable engagement that I had codified, and that would be easy for me to run, I think life would be a lot easier, or I thought life would be a lot easier. And it actually was. It became, last year we had our best year ever. I'm not the kind of person who's going to necessarily put revenue numbers out there, but if you're interested, let me know and we can have a conversation. But it really was a significant year for us. And I achieved it by focusing on that signature engagement and making it repeatable. So there's a couple of things that I had stacked together over the course of the last 5 years. I regard the prior 25 years as really good education that I got to then set me up for the 5 years that have followed. And even in those 5 years, the first 2.5 were tough, as I said. And then we've kind of, especially the last year, reached a point where it's just soaring. And the soaring has come from the focus that having a signature engagement has provided us with. It means that we can go to our clients knowing exactly what we do, how well it works, because I've done it so many times. I can speak to the impact. I can speak to the results. I have testimonials from other clients. I know the level of effort that it requires. It doesn't require me to rethink every time one of these comes up in terms of how am I going to do it. I know how I'm going to do it because I've done it so many times before. That also makes me really good at that. And when you're really good at something, you can charge a premium price, partly because you know you will get the result. And the second part is because that result is usually quite good. In my case, it delivers massive growth for teams. It really elevates their performance of what they're going after. And it's absolutely in alignment with my pursuit of ambition. So if I were looking at the sort of independent consulting landscape today and thinking about how to get in, I would absolutely not try and replicate what I had done previously. I would absolutely not try and simply take a methodology. And I see so many independent consultants doing this, where they take what they've done in the past and now put a new logo, a new skin on it, and say this is now mine and this is what I'm going to go and do. That's not good enough, because if you're simply doing what you did before but under a different banner, your own independent banner now, you're not really adding terrific insight. You haven't really evolved that delivery very much at all. And so your expertise in that regard is shallow, because what you're doing is copying. You haven't created. And what you need to do to be a successful independent consultant, I believe, in 2026 and beyond, is you need to be a creator within your craft. You need to be able to take what you do really, really well and come up with differentiation that you have, that speaks to why you are different from probably everybody else. And why should a client listen to you? You take that and you can distill that into your signature engagement, however long that is. And my engagement, my signature engagement has two key parts. There's an in-person session, which is what the client typically sees together. And that only lasts between 2 and 3 days. It depends on schedule. I've sometimes done it as short as 1 day. But that's the event. That's the culmination. That's part 2. Part 1, though, happens over the course of a couple of weeks, where we're doing deep prep. We're having conversations with clients, sort of one-on-one, those bilateral conversations as opposed to teaming conversations. And then they do some prep work that helps me to set them up well when we're in person together. So you need to have a signature engagement, and that delivery, whatever it takes for you, that is also differentiated. So if you come into a conversation with a client and you have a differentiated point of view, it might actually be counterintuitive relative to what everybody else is saying. So if everybody else says you need to have a healthy breakfast, your point of view might be that actually breakfast is not the best meal for you if you're trying to achieve X or achieve Y. You've got to have some science to back it up, which we have done at the Ambition Company. We've gone so deep in some of our research that we had to sort of pull back and go, hold on, let's make sure we're not losing the thread here. But my guidance is that if you want to set yourself up for success as an independent advisor, and that's because you're either coming out of industry or you're coming from a consulting business, you need to identify what your differentiation is, and you need to be able to craft that then into a signature engagement. We're going to be doing some work with a number of independent consultants going into 2026 to help them achieve that. But there's two things I will say. If you are coming out of industry, on the one hand, you have it easier because perhaps you've only ever experienced consultants as a consumer of a consultant. You've bought them, hired them, or you've been around a team where they've done some work. And so you've seen how they've worked, you know what you like, you know what you don't like about how they've worked. That means you probably have some biases that you need to think through and process around what was good, what wasn't good, what did you like, what did you not like as a client of a consultant. But it also means you've probably got some really good depth of industry experience. So if you're an engineer, you're coming out of a manufacturing organization, you've probably seen and done a lot of things that you can help other companies to achieve. The same is true whether you're in finance or whether you're in law, whether you're in a specialty profession like human resources or finance, for instance, in the finance function. If you're coming out of consulting, it's probably a bit harder, to be frank, partly because there are a bunch of expectations and norms that you've become accustomed to about how work gets done and how work should get done. And unless you are really up for challenging the status quo of that, you're going to find yourself having a little bit of almost not imposter syndrome, but it's going to be hard for you necessarily to challenge what you've always known. So you're going to want to step back from that and really start giving some good thought to not just what made a good consultant good, but really what's going to make you good, what's going to make you stand apart, without falling into the trap of this is what I've always done before, because clients have seen that before. So you doing it just makes you a copycat. You need to have your own way. And that's where a little bit of the hard thinking is going to need to come in. So you're going to figure out what your skill set is, know where that lands, then frame that around a signature engagement that you know so well, you believe, you've got to have belief there. Like, let's be clear about this. You've got to have belief that this is going to work. There's so many people that are pitching things that I can tell that they don't believe that they're going to work. I know that when you work with me, I'm so vested in the result that we're going to get together. I'm so vested with my corporate clients, the impact it's going to have for their customers, for their shareholders, for their employees, and for the team, the management team. I'm so vested in the work that I do with independent consultants who want to build their engagement. You've got to believe that what you do is going to have an impact and is going to be something that, absent you doing that, your client is going to be worse off. So once you have that, you can bundle it together. You're able to you stop selling, actually. You of course are selling, but you're not really selling. What you have is you have a solution to a client's problem that is unique, differentiated, easy to explain. It's packaged as a signature engagement. You have a playbook around that. And you're able to put it in front of them and say, well, if that's your problem, this is your solution. You want to move away from what is the typical consultant model, which is, let me find the RFP that I can respond to, and I'll cobble up a proposal. The notion that so many independent consultants are using AI to generate proposals is actually foolish in some respects as I think about this, because you should know what you offer so well that you don't need to be creating and crafting a separate pitch every time. Yes, every client is unique, but you want to get out of this routine of saying, right, what work can I do for a client? What's the range of impact that I could potentially go after, and what can I do? And instead focus on that signature engagement, because you get known for it. I get referred now more than I do any outbound. And those referrals are coming from clients that are so delighted about the work that we've done together that they're happy to pass on my contact information to other clients who, when it comes up that I'm struggling with X or struggling with Y, they say, well, you should give Russell and the Ambition Company a call. That's what I want. And that's what I want for you if you're an independent consultant, because that's absolutely the path forward. It's not about responding to RFPs. It's about trying to stand out in a very crowded and noisy environment. It's about how you set things up for yourself, that you become known, for something that gives you the freedom to do the way you want to do it. I'm the happiest I've been in 5 years now with my new business. And I call it new business because it evolves every year. I'm happiest I've been. I don't have anyone I need to answer to except my clients. So that's the freedom you have. And then what comes with that is the knowing that you're commanding value for yourself. You're charging a fee that is commensurate with the value you're adding for a client, and you can feel really good about the work. When you work as an independent advisor, clients are looking at you knowing that it's on you to deliver that value. And when you show up and you deliver that value and you get that check or the money hits the bank account, you can feel really good about the value that you've added. And that's kind of at the essence of what this is all about, giving you the confidence that you're adding value. That confidence just seeps out of you. People see it and feel it. They just see how different you are because of the results you're getting. And that feels very different to somebody who's kind of tentatively pitching an RFP around work they've never done before. I work with teams. I help them amplify their ambition. We have the conversations that need to be had in a very tough but grown-up way, in a very controlled environment. But post that, the acceleration towards something greater is massive that they get to feel and I get to help them be a part of. And then it's up to them. And usually they deliver. And if we need to have a course correct and get back on track, we absolutely do that. So that's my engagement. My hope is that if you're thinking about moving into independent consulting in 2026, that you don't go out and just try and be a hired hand. Don't think that Upwork is the only place that you can go or some other platform. I love Upwork, right? But it's not necessarily the place if you want to be an independent consultant, if you want to be doing something that is substantive. So as we get to go into 2026, we're going to be ramping up a couple of things. We in 5 years, we haven't really ever had a website. So we're going to get to doing that. We've got some great partners who are going to help us make the best website we've ever had. Can't wait to share that, as well as building out the work that we're doing around independent consultants, because that's going to be massively important too. I love my signature engagement. And if there are other consultants who want to leverage that for the betterment of their clients, why would I not want them to do that? So it'll help them be successful in their business and help their clients. And so for me, that's really what this is all about. We're not here to gate our content and to make sure that no one can do what we do. It's all about how we can, frankly, make the world a better place. So that's where Ambition Company is going in 2026. It's been a little bit random coming on and just recording a 20-minute sort of state of where I am and what's been going on, but that's a little bit about what we've been focused on. So a fair bit of travel coming up over the course of the next year, but we can't wait. It's going to be our best year ever. And I wish you all the very best wherever you are and whatever you're up to in the pursuit of your ambition.